a request to have a little kids time this morning, so all little kids, come on up. Where's Brody?
Downstairs.
Oh, he went downstairs.
Hey, buddy.
How you guys doing today? I got a simple question. How many times should you try something before you give up? Hey, buddy. Come on down. Come on. But how many times should you try to do something before you give up? You can keep, so if you do something and it don't work, should you just give up right away? Keep trying, okay. Okay, keep thinking, okay. All right. You like to play kickball? Do you like to play kickball? How about you? Avery, you like to play kickball? Yeah. I don't know what that, Mama did something. Mama did something. We always got to worry about what these kids are going to say when they're going to say something. Hey, Brody, come on over here. You like to play kickball? Yeah? Okay. Suppose now, the very first time somebody rolls the ball to you and you miss it. You missed it. You went to kick and you fell down. Okay? What should you do? Throw it, okay. All right. Should you get up and try to kick it again?
Yes.
Why not? Now, Alex, are you sure which way? You went both ways so far. What do you think? Kick it again, Cody? Brody, kick it again? Yeah. Because, just because you missed it once doesn't mean you're going to miss it again, right? So maybe this time you'll hit it. And maybe this time you'll kick it. Well, that's what this lesson's going to be about. It's going to be about a guy who, his name is Elijah, and he got, it was a pretty bad time for him. And he had to get fed by birds, all right? And he went to get a drink of water from a brook, and eventually that brook dried up. And do you think he gave up on God? Do you think he gave up praying? No, and eventually, you know what happened? Eventually the rain came, and the water was there, and he was able to do a great victory for God. The only reason why he was able to do it is because he didn't give up. So maybe you're trying to teach somebody, or maybe you're trying to talk to somebody about God. Maybe you're praying for somebody. Don't give up. Just because it doesn't happen right away, we need to keep on trying.
You should throw the ball that way, like that easier, so you won't break the wall.
Okay. Did you get that? You kick the ball that way so we don't break the wall. All right. Okay. Go back to your seats. Well, I'll do it myself. Go ahead. Good morning. We're going to talk from 1 Kings chapter 17. And tell you what, the people tell me that I don't talk loud enough when I got these in my ears, so. All right. 1 Kings chapter 17 said, now Elijah the Tishbite from Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab, as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, there will neither be dew nor rain in the next few years, except by my word. When the word of the Lord came to Elijah, leave here, turn eastward, and hide in the Kerith ravine, east of the Jordan. You will drink from the brook, and I have ordered the ravens to feed you there. Now, if I'm Elijah at this point, I'm gonna say, what? Ravens are going to feed me? Do you know what those things eat? How many know what ravens eat? 2 words, roadkill. I don't know how much roadkill that they had in Jerusalem at this time, but you know, these are dirty birds. All right? So here we go. I put the remote down. Oh, there it is. So here we got these dirty birds, and they're gonna, and Elijah's being told, they're gonna feed you, and you're gonna drink water from this brook. Ahab, I'm gonna give you a timeline here. First of all, this is during the reign of Ahab. Ahab was a bad king. Can you say that for me? What kind of king was he?
Bad king.
He was a bad king. What made him bad? Well, he took stuff that didn't belong to him. He took people's lands for no reason, just because he wanted it. And his wife was named Jezebel. And we all know about her, right? All right. So Ahab was a bad king. But he wasn't just a bad king because he did things like that. He was a bad king because he led the people into idolatry. Now, idol worship. We talk a lot about this, and I want to get this fact out. First of all, idol worship is not just taking God out. In Israel's day, in this day, they didn't take God out of the picture. What they did was they added to it. That there would be God, and He'd be the chief God, and then there'd be all these demigods, these small gods. So their idol worship was that they had idols or false gods plus God. Now, at this time, the drought is in effect about 6 months. Ahab is mad at Elijah because every time Elijah comes before Ahab, he doesn't have a good thing to say about it. Now, how would you feel if you were in charge of something and you thought you were doing the best you could, but somebody came in and was always putting down your work? Now, some of you said, oh, already there, okay? All right? Well, that's a little bit of how Ahab felt, but the only thing was, he deserved it. Because Elijah is warning him, you are turning the people away from God. You are adding all these other gods when God said not to. You're doing all these things that God told you not to do. You're stealing land that's not yours. You're taking things from people that don't belong to you. You're a bad king. Right? And now, because the people have turned away from God, God has withdrawn His blessing. This drought is in 2 stages. This drought is a physical drought in that there's no rain coming on the land. But this drought is also a spiritual one in that God is withholding His blessings. You understand that? Sometimes we can be going, we might not have the physical drought, but we might have the spiritual drought. We might be in a condition to where nothing is going right. we might be in a position where God has withheld His blessings from us. And why would that be? It would be because there's sin in our life that needs to be addressed and needs to be repented of. In this case, it was idol worship. The command, the very first command. And what I'm doing is I'm going to break this down a little bit. The very first command says, I am. Alright? Now, that word I am in the Hebrew is in reference to the name that God uses and tells Moses when Moses says, who are you? Who shall I say sent me? And he says, tell them I am. Alright? Now, the next word is the word the. Now, we don't think a whole lot about this word. Alright? In the Hebrew and in the Greek, there is a mark. And when it comes before a word like this, it means this. It means the one and only. There you are. Okay, there you are. The one and only. When he says, I am the one and only Lord your God. It doesn't mean that it's not enough just to put Him first. It's that He is the one and only. We will not have any other gods. This was Israel's problem. They had Jehovah, Yahweh, and then they added under Him all these other gods. A God for the rain, a God for the sun, a God for the agriculture, a God for money, a God for this, a God for that. And all of a sudden they had all these other gods. In countries where there is a pantheon of gods, this is the way it is. They will have one chief god, and then they will have all these other demigods underneath them. And you start to wonder, well, who should I pray to? And that's why God says, it's not me plus anything. It's me alone, and that's it. So in that first command, it is, I am the one and only Lord your God. You will not have any others. That's why He's a jealous God. He doesn't want to share us with anybody. He wants it Him, not just Him first, but Him only. And this is where they missed that point. So, God said, okay, you're going to be that way? I'm going to hold back the rain. Now, what would happen? What would happen in Pawpaw? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to add. Let's add Morgan and Hampshire County. Okay. All right. What would happen in Morgan and in Hampshire County if it didn't rain for 6 months? How many people's wells might dry up? Or come close to drying up? By the time this ends, the rain is going to be withheld for several years. What would the land be like if it didn't rain for a year? What would the cattle be like? How about the crops? This is how serious God is getting about this. You're going to keep worshiping these other gods? Okay, fine. No rain. And the rain is withheld. Now, from the original text. We don't always get this, but I want to go back and look at that one verse. The Lord says, go, leave here, turn eastward, and hide in the Kerith ravine east of Jordan. Why do you think God is going to tell Elijah, who's been in Ahab's face all this time, why do you think now he's going to tell him, go hide? Why do you think he's going to tell him, go hide? Well, I think two reasons. One is Ahab is going to want his head. And two, the reason the rain is held up is because Elijah was told to pray that way, and Elijah prayed, and the rain is withheld for years. If he is free to walk around Jerusalem, and he starts to see little kids dying of thirst, he starts to see little babies who are malnourished and dehydrated, that it would move his heart so much that he would pray to move the heart of God. And God needed to teach these people a lesson. Sometimes we're going to go through a spiritual drought. And when we do, it's time to start asking one question. Is what have I done? God does not withhold his blessings for no reason. He's not, as someone that I've been in conversation with for the past week or so, he's not some trickster. He's not some egomaniac who gets pleasure out of hurting people. He's not that way. But he teaches us lessons. So if we're going through this spiritual drought, maybe we need to ask ourselves a question, is what have I done? Enter Elijah, a rugged man from Gilead. You know, I think that song we picked today about, did you think to pray? In the one verse it said, balm of Gilead did you borrow? And I think of this. Where is Elijah from? He's from Gilead. It's a rugged country. It's where it's the better term. It's the redneck area of Jerusalem. Now we understand that, right? Oh, come on, that was a little funnier than that, wasn't it? This is really the redneck area. These are rugged men. Elijah reminds me of two people. One that we have all come in contact with here at one time, and another is a man that helped start this movement called the Restoration Movement, in which the Church of Christ, Christian Missionary Alliance, and those came from. And that man's Raccoon John Smith. Now, Raccoon John Smith was a frontiersman. He was a rugged man, and he basically had one message. And he had different ways to tell it, but he basically had one message. And he didn't care if you got offended by the way he said it, but he said it in such a way to get your attention. All right? The other man was a man named Cobb. How many remember Cobb? When Cobb used, come on. I told Cobb when I first met him, he reminded me of Hoss Cartwright and Grizzly Adams. Because he was big in both ways. And he also had a very similar message. Now, his one message was just this: get right with God. That's it. All the years that Raccoon John Smith preached, you can boil down his message to this one line: get right with God. He might have been a little more in your face kind of thing. And he might have told you in such a rugged way that you might have gotten offended, but you could not miss his message. His message was very simple: get right with God. That's it. Raccoon John Smith, with his one simple message, helped lead a revival that swept this land like none other before. It was called the era of the Great Awakening. And all across this land, because of men like Barton Stone, Alexander Campbell, Thomas Campbell, Raccoon John Smith, Scott, now I can't think of his first name. I want to say Wesley Scott, but that doesn't sound right. And all because of these men. Now, get this picture, okay? These guys were told by their denomination that they were too dumb to be preachers. Why? Because they made it very simple. That was it. And that message swept across this land, that in a little county in Kentucky called Cane Ridge, a 4-day revival was held and 6,000 people came to Christ. And a spiritual drought was lifted because people heard a message so simple, so plain, and then wanted to know what they must do to get right with God. And here's Elijah. He's a rugged man from Gilead, and his message is the same message. And he is going through Jerusalem. He's in Ahab's face. He's in the people's face. Get right with God. Get rid of all these idols. Get rid of all these things that we are placing on the same platform with God. And He'll bring the rain. And He'll bring the blessing. And we're going to say to America today, get right with God. There's nothing less that we can do. We want God's blessing on America, don't we? Don't we?
Yes.
Okay. Very simple. America, get right with God. It's that simple. You know, I don't know why we do this. Cindy, I really don't know why we do this, but we try to make it sound so, it's got to be, that's not ecclesiastical enough, okay? Now, I threw that word out there. How many people know what that word means? You know what that word means? Religious. Alright? Why do we got to make something so simple to be so religious? Why do we got to add religion to it when it's so simple? It's one thing, it's get right with God. But yet, we got to feel like that's too simple. We got to complicate it. You know, we got to add these things to it. That's what got him in trouble in the first place. Then the brook went dry. In verse 7, sometime later, the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Think of Elijah. Here he is, and at this point, we're not sure how many days he's been there. But every day, ravens have been coming and bringing him food. Alright? I don't know if it was like Anthony's takeout, but that's the one thing that God says. He doesn't say, he doesn't say that He's going to give you everything you want. He does say He's going to give you everything you need. And now, the brook has dried up. And while some of us might look at this as maybe punishment, it's not. It's not punishment. God is refining Elijah. God is preparing him. All right? He was led to a brook that dried up. And don't you think that maybe he was saying, well, God, why did you leave me here? Why here? You know? Gee, 6 times up and down. And he looks and nothing has changed. The leprosy is still, it doesn't even look like it's healing up. He's led to a brook that dried up. And God says to him, I'm going to send you now some.